I just want to start off by saying that this has a slightly confusing ending and no answer whatsoever. As an old Nickelodeon cartoonist, I always used to view the cartoons before everybody else did, just to make sure that they were okay and there were no flaws or anything like that. It was a new episode of The Fairly Odd Parents, and it was the one called Power Pal / Emotion Commotion. I had started the episode, and the episode seemed to be pretty good, with no flaws whatsoever. So when I took it in the room for everybody else to see, I didn't expect anything to happen other than what I had saw. Boy, was I wrong. We were sent into the editing room and started the tape. I walked out for a few minutes because I expected a call from my manager. He wasn't there that day, he was at a meeting. He had called up and we talked about business for about half an hour. When I came back into the editing room, everybody just looked at me. Some questionably and some very angrily. And I just didn't know what was going on. They put in the tape and it took a while for it to load, but when it did, the title screen came up as Timmy's Wish, surrounded by missiles, nuclear warheads, and radiation symbols. I knew for an absolute fact that that was not what I had named it, so I was just as confused as everybody else. The show started with Timmy in his bedroom, once again being babysat by Vicky for about 4 days, because of the fact his parents were going out of town during that time. She had locked him in his own room, with windows shut, doors barricaded, and nowhere to go. He was bored, honestly so bored that he started developing cabin fever. So Timmy just sat there on his bed, talking to Cosmo and Wanda. I wish for toys, comics, and video games and a bunch of Crimson Chin comics. Cosmo and Wanda granted him all that he asked for. Wanda replied with, Timmy, have you ever thought about wishing for world peace? It's worth a try. Okay. By now I was really confused because I had never written any of this. So I thought somebody had just pulled a prank on me and changed the disc to whatever they had made. Anyway, Timmy replied with, no, but I have thought of something. I wish for... It was faded out, almost like it was censored. But then there was a poof cloud and Timmy had a box of knives in front of him. Thanks, he replied, and then he went to bed and fell asleep. Cosmo and Wanda were relatively confused. Why would he need a box of knives? They would both say, and they fell into their fishbowl and went to sleep as well. I was really confused by now to think about it all, but I kept watching. The next scene showed Timmy getting up, jumping out of the window, and it faded into the darkness. 2 hours later, title card came up. He came back with a weird liquid on his body, but it was too dark to see anything, including his face. The way we all knew it was a liquid was because there were drops around him falling from him. Anyway, he broke open the door, went to the bathroom, cleaned off the liquid, and then went back to bed and fell asleep. The next scene made me gag. It was Francis, drenched in a pool of his own blood, his face cut open. On his stomach, carved on with bloody skin, was the initials TT. The picture looked so realistic that it was almost sickening. As known, Timmy's initials are TT, so we can guarantee that it was him. A couple left and a few other interns stayed. The second scene, which was even more worse than the last one, popped up. The head had been chopped off and the arms and legs had been slit open, hands and feet cut off, and the same in his stomach. The person was Mr. Crocker. We knew it was Timmy because it seems these two victims were Timmy's enemies. The pictures were so realistic, much ran out, just leaving 4 hours. Then it was the morning, and Timmy woke up. The knives were drenched in blood, and on the news, there had been the deaths that Timmy had caused. Cosmo and Wanda looked at the news, and then looked at Timmy. There was no suspicion it was him, so he had nothing to worry about. It went on like a regular day, except, of course, without any bullying, and instead there was a substitute teacher, until there was a brand new teacher. Then when it reached nighttime, the fairies went to bed, and so did Timmy. By now, I was really nervous. This had been the whole episode, but now it was 2 halves. Timmy came back with more blood on him than ever. By now you would know it was blood, and a couple of scars. After he cleaned himself, the next day Vicky was on the news, and the picture was honestly disgusting. I honestly lost my lunch after that. She had been tortured with whips and chains, and her whole body had been cut up into pieces, with body parts lying around. I honestly just couldn't hold it in anymore. Nobody suspected that a 10-year-old child would have done this, so nobody suspected him. That night, Timmy was going out of the window when he saw a bunch of police cars and helicopters. Behind him, Wanda spoke. I know it was you, Timmy. I watched you, and so I called the police. Timmy then sat down, crying on his bed. He looked up, and his eyes were in detail, and the creepiest I'd ever seen him. He looked like they were animated to the max. He then took a pistol, dropped a folded note, and shot himself through the mouth. When the police broke in, they opened the folded note, and it said, "You think I was murdering people? That's small talk. If I was murdering people, you would all be gone." And that's when the episode shut off. I went to go grab the disc to see what it looked like, as to see if it was my disc, but somehow it managed to become corrupt and was worthless. Still, I was able to see the disc rather than seeing the episode again, but I don't know why it didn't corrupt the first time it was shown. The creepiest part is, that was my disc. My name, my signature on it, and everything else. From that time, the actual episode aired. I, of course, had to remake it. It ran perfectly, no different than what I had watched originally. The episode will never be out of my mind, and we will never know how it actually happened, or even came to be.